In order to understand any structure, we need to talk about the surface anatomy first, because that is the first thing that we actually observe in our patients. So we are in this section of the posterior compartment of the thigh. That's what we're going to talk about, the surface anatomy. And once again, every structure, for example, if we talk about the muscles, tendons, or ligaments, or they are all attached to bones, and that actually makes the basic framework of the overall structure. So that's what we're going to talk about as well in this section. So this section is pretty much concerned with the structure and the bony landmarks of the posterior compartment of the thigh. And in this, we're going to take a look at the structure and the surface anatomy of the posterior compartment of the thigh. We're also going to talk a little bit about the femur and the proximal aspect of the tibia. And we're also going to take a look at the hip and knee joint, because that's the two joints in which the thigh is located in between these two joints. So that's what we're going to take a look at. So posterior compartment of the thigh is actually the region approximated between hip and knee joints, and that is why we're also going to take a brief look at them one by one in the upcoming slides. Moreover, it is posteriorly separated from the gluteal region by the gluteal fold superficially. This is the gluteal fold. If we take a look at the patient from the posterior aspect, we can observe this gluteal fold, and this is actually the superficial landmark which separates the gluteal region. This is the gluteal region from the posterior thigh, and this is the posterior leg. Moreover, if we go a little deeper from the superficial skin, then we can see that the structures that actually demarcate, or they actually create a boundary between the gluteal region and the posterior thigh. One of them is the inferior margin of the gluteus maximus, and the other one is the quadratus femoris. So if we take a look at this picture here, we can see clearly that this is actually the gluteal fold. And here we have the inferior margin of the gluteus maximus, and that is the area from where the posterior aspect of the thigh starts and the gluteal region ends. And moreover, if we even go deeper, then we have another small muscle known as quadratus femoris over here. Now this muscle actually demarcates that where the thigh is actually starting from. So this is actually the point from where the posterior aspect of the thigh starts, and it actually continues up till here, and from here the posterior aspect of the leg starts beneath or under the if we go under the popliteus. So this is the popliteal region. So below this we have the posterior aspect of the leg, and above it we have the posterior aspect of the thigh. So posteriorly, the thigh is continuous with the gluteal region superiorly. And if we talk about the gluteal region, now there is a very important nervous structure which actually originates from the lower lumbar and the sacral segments, which is the sciatic nerve, and it is clinically very important as well, because its involvement actually results in radiculopathy and radiating signs and symptoms, which are often commonly known as sciatica. So that is actually the structure that passes between these two regions, that is the gluteal region and the posterior thigh, and that is the sciatic nerve. And sciatic nerve is responsible for the innervation of all of the muscles in the posterior thigh compartment. And we're also going to take a look at the sciatic nerve and its branches and its supply in detail in upcoming sections. So once again, moving on, now this is the posterior gluteal fold, and here we have the popliteal region, where we have the semitendinosus, semimembranosus, biceps, femoris superiorly, and it is actually a diamond shaped or a quadrilateral shaped area, and we have the two heads of the gastrocnemius and pectineus inferiorly. And if you take a look here, so this is the gluteal region, and this one here is the posterior thigh, and between them we have the sciatic nerve, which actually passes through this region, and this sciatic nerve is actually lies over the adductor magnus. So here we have the sciatic nerve, and it passes through the posterior aspect of the thigh, and by the end of the thigh it actually terminates into its two major branches. One is the tibial nerve, which passes between the popliteus, and one is the common fibular nerve, also known as common peroneal nerve. Now, as we already mentioned, that thigh or the posterior thigh is the region located between the hip and the knee joints. So in order to understand the hip joint, just let's recall the basic anatomy of the structures here. So we have the two innominate bones that make up the three innominate bones that actually make up the hip bone, which is known as the two innominate bones which actually make up the pelvis, and we have the ilium, ischium, and pubis, which are the three individual bones that make the one side of the hip. And this actually hip bone or the innominate bone actually has a cavity which is known as the acetabulum, and that acetabulum receives the femoral head, which actually makes the hip joint. So this is the ilium part of the innominate bone. This one is the pubis part, which is anteriorly and inferiorly, and the part which is posteriorly and inferiorly is the ischium. So ilium, ischium, and pubis make up the hip bone or the innominate bone. And this here we have the acetabulum, which is the cavity to receive the femoral head. This is the femoral head, and this is actually the convex bony partner, and this is the femoral neck, and this is the greater trochanter, lesser trochanter, and the intertrochanteric line. Now we just took a look at the hip joint. So the major bone which is actually present in the region of the thigh is actually the femur. So let's take a little bit look at the structures and the bony landmarks of the femur. So as I already mentioned, we have the femoral head, greater trochanter, lesser trochanter, and here we have the anterior aspect. Here we have the posterior aspect. We can actually recognize the posterior aspect by a sharp ridge, which is known as the linea aspera, as we can see here, which actually divides into the lateral supracondylar line and the medial supracondylar line on the inferior aspect. To recognize that what is the medial or the lateral aspect, so the side where we have the femoral head is actually the medial aspect of the femur. And moving on, we are talking about now, here is where we have the patella, so that is why it is known as the patellar surface. On both the ends at the distal aspect of the femur, we have the medial and lateral epicondyle, and just above the medial epicondyle, we have the adductor tubercle for the attachment of the adductor muscles, and just adjacent to the lateral epicondyle, we have the facet for the attachment of the lateral head of the gastrocnemius, which is actually the major plantar flexor, and we also have a facet for the attachment of the popliteus muscle, which actually is a muscle which is responsible for the unlocking of the knee joint and initiation of knee flexion. Moreover, here if we take a look, so we have these two condyles, and between those two condyles we have the intercondylar fossa, and this is the area around here where we have the popliteal fossa as well, which is formed by the biceps femoris, semitendinosus, and semimembranosus superiorly, and the two heads of the gastrocnemius inferiorly, and that makes a quadrilateral or a diamond-shaped fossa. The other joint that we have in this overall area is the knee joint, which is actually formed by the distal aspect of the femur, which articulates with the proximal aspect of the tibia, and we also have the patella, which makes the patellofemoral joint with the femur. So this is known as the knee joint, and here we can see we have the anterior cruciate and the posterior cruciate ligaments, which live with the anterior and posterior translation at the joint, and we also have the medial and lateral collateral ligaments, which resist the varus and valgus angulation respectively. And if you take a look here, so patella is attached with the tibia, the tibial tuberosity via the patellar ligament. Here we have the infrapatellar pad, and in between the knee joint, we have a specialized disc or a cartilaginous disc structure, which is known as the meniscus, which is responsible for the shock absorbing capacity for the knee joint because it is a major weight bearing joint. Here we have the same knee joint in flexion so that we can better visualize the anterior and the posterior cruciate ligament. So here we have the anterior cruciate ligament and here we have the posterior cruciate ligament. And the function of the anterior cruciate ligament is to limit the anterior translation of tibia on femur, and the function of the posterior cruciate ligament is exactly the opposite, which is to limit the posterior translation of tibia on femur. So talking about the knee joint, is also important to understand the proximal aspect of the tibia. So tibia is actually the concave bony partner in the knee joint, and if you take a look at the structure here, so this here is the anterior aspect. To recognize the anterior aspect of the tibia, just take a look at the tibial tuberosity, because it is supposed to be onto the anterior aspect. And once again, just like the femur, we have the lateral condyle and the medial condyle, and between these two areas, or we can say there's the tibial plateau, there is a tubercle, or also known as the intercondylar eminence. And similarly, this here is the posterior aspect, where we have the articular facet for proximal head of the fibula, which actually makes the tibiofibular joint. And here we also have the attachment of the posterior cruciate ligament, because the posterior cruciate ligament attaches on the posterior aspect of the tibia. Here we can see the meniscus, and these meniscus are actually cartilaginous discs, and they actually help in the shock absorption capacity of the tibiofemoral or the knee joint. So that was pretty much about the surface anatomy and the structure, overall basic structure, and the bones and the joints in the posterior aspect of the thigh or in the thigh region. And I hope you learned something new out of it. And for more lectures like this, keep on watching sqadia.com. Thank you very much.